Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm your host, Paul Jasson. Thank you for joining us in the midst of everything that's going on in the country. It is just a crazy time right now. And we're going to be talking about some of those things. Every show that we've done since we've come back, which is 2 or 3 shows, of course the overarching theme has been coronavirus. And today will be no different. We'll be talking about it. The second part of the show, we'll talk to Bryan DeMichael, who's the captain down at Salvation Army, and they, of course, are affected big time with their daycare center, with everything they have going on down there. We'll talk to him about it. But kind of an interesting first segment today, I like to think, because, like I say, everything we've talked about since we've come back has been about the effects of the COVID virus, with the mayor, with the Steve Davis, commissioner, with Steve Wigton, with all these people, how it's affected them. Mike Tharp on the parks, how it's affected them financially. Well, today we're going to look at the little different aspect of it, and we're so fortunate to have, I don't know that he thinks he's so fortunate to be here, but we're fortunate to have someone who actually suffered through the coronavirus. This is Assistant Fire Chief for the Lancaster Fire Department, KJ Watts. KJ, welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm glad you're here to be able to do this.
Absolutely.
And it seems like, I don't know if it seems like an eternity ago for you, but I think when I read about this in the paper, they did a nice article on you having that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was March, maybe it was April when they did that.
Mm-hmm.
You had actually survived the coronavirus. So
That's
not
correct.
only can you talk about in your job as fire department the effects of the virus on you and what you do for a living, but you lived through this. You and your family lived through this.
Absolutely.
What an experience!
It was quite an experience. It was first 2 weeks of April is what I usually call it. Right around April 3rd is when I got tested. Right near the end of March is when I started having symptoms.
Do you have any idea, because the big talk when somebody has it is contact tracing, who you've been around, who you can affect, things like that. Do you know, could you pinpoint a time?
So I know there was a group of us at the fire department that, looking back at it after it all happened, we all got it.
Yeah.
And we were actually outfitting, if you read the paper about a week before I was in it, we talked about one of our medic units we outfitted with Visqueen so we could transport COVID-related patients.
Sure.
And a group of us were putting that Visqueen in with duct tape and fixing that truck up, and almost everybody that was there that day got it.
So actually it could have been something that perhaps was not wiped down. I mean, it could have come from back then. We were all worried about surfaces and cleaning and everything.
Absolutely.
So you get what, symptoms? You start coughing?
Yeah. Well,
fever?
Fever was the first thing, and I just felt. I mean, I told my wife, I feel like I'm a half a bubble off, and I'm like, I don't know what it is.
And you're somebody that's normally not an ill person.
No, I don't ever get the flu. I get the flu shot every year. I don't get sick much, maybe like a stuffy nose once in a while, but normally don't get sick, pretty healthy otherwise. And I just didn't feel right, and but nobody in this county had it at that point in time.
Yeah.
So
really?
I kind of sloughed it off. There were no numbers. We had known cases in Columbus, and that was the closest.
So really you don't have much to go on.
No.
You just hearing about it on TV,
Right.
you're reading about it, and all of a sudden those are things that I'm starting to feel. So you go down quickly?
Yeah, well, it took probably about a week for me to realize that it's getting worse.
No.
So it was 3 or 4 days there where I just didn't feel right. A lot of stress at that point in time because at the fire department we were trying to figure out what our response was going to be, what did we need to do to change. So I was working 10, 12-hour days around that period, so I thought maybe I was just exhausted.
Sure.
And then it was my wife who finally said, hey, you need to get tested, you know. And by that time they had changed the availability of the test, how quick the results would come back, because we had some folks in the fire department who got tested, and we waited 12 to 14 days for their results.
Early on, it was very slow.
Exactly, absolutely.
Very
so I said, why would I even get tested? I'll just stay home for 2 weeks. But then for first responders, they did 24-hour testing on April 1st, and so April 3rd, which I believe was a Friday, I went to the hospital and got tested. Found out the next day.
Now, I had Chief Ward on last week, and he indicated there were, at least what I thought, lots of people in
Yeah.
our fire department
Yeah.
that came down with it. Many in the group that you were in.
There were about 10 of us that were off sick, and 8 of us were tested positive.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a time period for us, and we're short-staffed already. And it was hard to get people in to staff the trucks. Everybody was sick.
A lot of overtime.
A lot of overtime. And it was scary to try to figure out how we were going to, and we thought that was a new norm. We thought 10 people sick, it could be 20, it could be half our department.
Sure.
A lot of fire departments, a lot of police departments were worried about that.
And that's back when everybody didn't have a lot of information.
Right.
If we knew now,
Right.
then
Right.
perhaps you'd look at it differently. So you go home, you quarantine
Correct.
yourself, or
Correct.
was it still 14 days?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 14 days. I had to quarantine myself. The health department, once they got the results, the health department called, gave me all the parameters of not going to different places. I had to give them a list of people I was in contact with so they
Right.
could call them and monitor them. I was so sick there that Friday that I went home, went to bed, and didn't wake up till the next day when the health department called. I was just beat, and didn't feel good at all, and didn't feel like doing much of anything.
And I guess when I was reading about this, when you were indicating how sick you were, how really down you got on this, that really surprised me as somebody that didn't know much about it, that's just read things in the paper, because in my mind, somebody like you would not, even if you got it,
Right.
somebody like you they were telling us it wouldn't be so bad.
Right.
You're in good health. You don't have these other comorbidity issues.
Yep.
Things are pretty good. You'll get it. Maybe you won't even know you had it. You knew you had it.
I had it. I think if I was the worst thing, the scariest part for me was after the first week, I started getting a rattly cough. That was like I think I described it as a motorcycle backfiring in the newspaper.
That's
and
unnerving.
It hurt when I coughed. And so
That was a weekend?
a weekend, and then I lost my taste. I couldn't taste for a few days, and that was probably worse than anything.
So over these 14 days, you were quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
You went through a time, a week at least, you continued to go down.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it was, I would say the first few days it was just fever, and just feeling exhausted. And then my mind's working, and I'm like, I got to get out of bed. I got to go do something.
Sure.
The grass is growing
Sure.
outside. I got
Sure.
to mow. So I'd get up, and I'd think I'd feel okay. And then an hour later, I'd just go back down into the slumps. And then just different things would come up. And I was surprised at the 10-day in period, I lost all my taste. And it didn't come back for 5 or 6 days. It was wild.
So probably weight loss.
Oh yeah, definitely. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like. I just
It
didn't
was
feel
exhausting
like it
to
was
eat,
exhausting,
probably.
Yeah, it was.
So
it
just
was.
liquids,
stay
soups,
stay
stay
hydrated. My wife
hydrated.
would bring me soups.
Yeah.
My fever was high, so she'd bring me ice cream, and I've got a favorite. I had a favorite ice cream that was in the newspaper article.
Taste gone.
Taste gone. And then I even try to eat that ice cream now, and it just doesn't taste right.
Really.
And I don't know why that is.
Talking with KJ Watts. KJ is the Assistant Fire Chief with the Lancaster Fire Department, but for our purposes today, he was a patient early on, almost before we knew a whole lot about the coronavirus. KJ got it, and so we're kind of going through that sequence now. So you're home. You had kids; they had to
Yep.
be shipped off.
They did. They were shipped off.
It's you and your wife.
That's right.
She stayed there with you.
She did. Yeah, she took care of me the whole time. And there were a couple days in there where she didn't feel good, and we were hypersensitive to the whole.
Sure.
She.
Now you have some clues.
That's right. Her cheeks got red. She started feeling feverish. We had a thermometer. She tested it. It was like a mid-level fever of 100.1 or something, and so we thought about sending her to get tested, but why? She's already quarantined with me.
Sure.
We'll just watch her
Sure.
symptoms, and she ended up pulling out of it and having way less symptoms than what I have.
And her health otherwise pretty good?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
This is unbelievable, really. When
It
you
is.
think back, you think you were the guinea pig. You took one for the team.
I did, and that's why when the Eagle Gazette called and had learned about it, Jeff Barron's a good friend of mine anyways, but we were talking about something totally unrelated, and then that subject came up, and I told him, I said, I had it. And he, really? can we do a story on that? And I'm like, sure, if it helps educate the
Eyes
public.
light up.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that bingo TV segment, I can see that's what Jeff does a great job. It was a really nice article.
Yeah.
So you were home 14 days. You go down for about a week. You start feeling worse and worse. Your wife gets some symptoms, not knowing whether she has it or not. Now you're into the second week. You finally feel like you're going to live through this.
Well, it's like you string an hour or two together, and you start feeling better and better, and then just every day that goes by. And being sick I've never been sick for 2 weeks. Never. I mean,
almost no one has.
No, that's what probably the most amazing thing for me is how long it lasted. And I'm like, I think I feel better.
So for that entire 2 weeks, you had issues.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. And then my fever went away for longer than an hour or two. It just went away, and I started feeling better, getting a little bit more energy, and then I called my doctor, scheduled an appointment. I couldn't go into the doctor's office until I had I think their rule was 4 days symptom-free. So I had to be 4 days without a fever. Then I scheduled that appointment, and then I went into that appointment, and they gave me an additional 7 days before I could go back to work. So I missed almost a month of work for that.
Really? That's more than you probably missed in your entire career.
Exactly. It was pretty wild. I came back and I was like, what's going on?
So finally, you get through this. You're on your way back. You've been quarantined 14 days. Now it's 4 days more, 7 days more. You finally head back. Were your other firemen that you were with, were they all back about the same time?
Yeah. Probably the week before I came back, they all started coming back. We all got hit end of March, beginning of April-ish, and I was probably one of the last ones back for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because the doctor's office I went to gave me that extra 7 days or whatever it is. But.
And when you talked to your other guys about all this, were their stories similar to yours? Some worse, some better?
Some worse, some better. Yeah, some guys, I know a guy who was out working in his barn, working on cars the whole time he was in quarantine, and he was a Marine, right? So he's just going to fight through it, and that's what he did. Another guy ended up in the hospital with it,
Sure.
So it was a wide range of how it affected people, and I don't know if it's because of what strain it was, the different strains, or our DNA. I'm not real sure what it's about.
Was that the worst time for the fire department when you guys all got it at once? You guys were almost off simultaneously. Was that when Chief Ward was saying that was when you had this many people off?
Absolutely.
That was it?
Yep, that was a scary moment because we didn't know when it was going to end.
And you're down to begin with a few people.
Yeah. We only have 65 firefighters, and we were down to 55. So it was really hard for us to see what the future was going to hold. I mean, we had plans to shut things down because we got pretty scared there. But luckily, when that group of us came back, we didn't have a replacement group going off either. So
now you're back, and now it's all in hindsight, and now we're months down the road. Lots of more information out there. We're not sure all of it's correct. We keep hearing things change day to day, but now you're back. How about? Do you think, or do you know? Can you get this again? You hear varying stories on that.
I hope not. I can tell you that I'm hyper vigilant anymore. I wash my hands more than I ever have. Wear the mask to help other people. I've got an N95 mask I carry around with me if I happen to go and help somebody out that's sick out on the street. I'm hyper vigilant with that. I hope I don't get it again, but I just try to read as much as you can about it from the experts, but.
Yeah, the story seems to change. They keep moving the goal line. We're going to do this, we got to do this, and then it changes. Well, we are so glad you're well and you're back with us.
Thank you.
You're a valuable part to the fire department and to the city. It's just been a heck of a time, heck of a run.
It has. I don't want to do this ever again.
Now, you've always gotten flu shots?
Yeah.
Will you get the vaccine? Is that something you need to get? You should get?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of vaccines. I think they're important.
Okay.
The history shows that, so... if they do roll out a vaccine, I myself, my wife, my kids will all get it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad they came through this well, and the kids are back, and the wife is better, and you're better. So, KJ, geez, thanks for sharing your story today.
Thank
it's
you.
A heck of a deal.
It is.
We're glad you're back.
Thank you very much.
Thank
so
you.
am I. Thank you.
Assistant Fire Chief with the Lancaster Fire Department, KJ Watts, talks about his experience going through the coronavirus. We'll be back on Fairfield Today in just a moment.
The Frankie Smith Funeral Home and Crematory in Lancaster and the Johnson Smith Funeral Home in Baltimore have a long and wonderful history of serving our community. Feel free to give us a call at 740-653-0652. Stop in and see us at either of our 2 locations, 405 North Columbus Street in Lancaster and 207 South Main Street in Baltimore. Respect for tradition, regard for change.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
It's a hometown bank. It's located here in Fairfield County. Branches are convenient. They're located here in Pickerington, where my office is. I'm in Lancaster a lot, and they have plenty of branches there. And I much prefer dealing with the hometown banks rather than the larger nationwide chain banks.
So far, everybody's been so personable, and for us to bank with the local bank, and we bank in Lancaster, it's been so wonderful because we'll call somebody, Steve will call somebody, and they'll get back to us right away, or they'll say, okay, we're going to make a decision in the basement tomorrow, and they'll get back to us, rather than calling a bigger bank where we had to wait, and we didn't always get the same person the next time we called for a investment banking opportunity, or getting something appraised, any of those kind of things.
Everybody is very customer friendly. A lot of times I'll bring my dog Bear with me, and the staff love him here, and of course he loves them and the treats that he gets. So it's just a nice kind of a family type environment.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. I want to thank KJ Watt coming in and telling us a heck of a story about his life during the coronavirus, which he acquired. So for several months there, he really went through it. I hope you enjoyed it, Kevin. He's open about it. He can talk about it, and he enjoys kind of getting it out there. So we thank Kevin coming in for that. Mentioned the good folks here at Fairfield Federal, and of course now, if you see their billboards, if you see any advertising going on for Fairfield Federal, it's all about their Quasquacentennial, 125 years. That is a big deal. It's a big deal that I could even say Quasquacentennial, so I'm fortunate that that's the last time I'll say it on this segment right here. But 125 years of service to Lancaster and Fairfield County. It's banking that revolves around you. Go to their website. They got a lot of information on there. They've got a questionnaire on there. I think Carrie James, who's one of the VPs here, has a thing where you can vote on money that they're going to be giving away in the community. So it's an opportunity to see where their public funds could be used. So I encourage you to go on their website, fairfieldfederal.com, and kind of read about things. Plus all their banking information is on there. Lots of things to look at, fairfieldfederal.com. Well, as I mentioned it when I started this show, all our shows, no matter who it's about, what the subject is, coronavirus enters into it big time, and of course that was the case with KJ Watts, and that'll be the case now with Captain Bryan DeMichael of the Salvation Army locally here. First of all, Bryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Like I say, it's all about the coronavirus these days. That is, and there's lots of things going on in the country right now, we know that, but the coronavirus has consumed us, and I'm sure you, for months.
Absolutely. I mean, it's me personally, our organization, it's caused about a lot of changes within how we do things and some of the situations that we've been dealing with.
I talk to a lot of people, and one thing I ask, are you Zoom meetinged out?
I'm getting close. I can be honest with that. We're
fatigue.
We're getting kind
fatigue.
of close with that. Yeah. Well, the problem was though too is I never figured out how to do the fun backgrounds and stuff like that. So some folks are look like they're in Hawaii. I'm still look like I'm from either my office or my house. And I do that too.
When I'm watching all these TV, you watch any sporting thing, everybody's in their own home. And I always like to look in the background and see, well, that's a pretty nice house. Or geez, you live in a dump. What are you doing here? So you're still going into work every day. Captain DeMichael and his wife Laura, both captains with the Salvation Army. Do you both go into work every day through all this?
I have been going into work every day through all of it, or at least 3 days a week through all of this. We have a teenage daughter, And so Laura has been staying home to take care of her because by Salvation Army policy, our daughter wasn't allowed to go to the building at all. Okay. So Laura's been kind of taking care of Madison, and then Laura also has severe asthma. So she's been a little bit in one of those high-risk kind of populations.
Sure, you don't want to get her involved in
Absolutely,
this.
Absolutely. So she's been taking care of things at home, and I've been making sure the office
She's been going to, she go to the Lancaster City schools?
Madison does, yes.
So she's been ninth grader. I'm not sure what grade she'd be.
She's just finishing 8th grade.
Okay, so she's been doing things over the computer at home?
Yes. And that's been a challenge too.
Sure.
My wife and daughter are both very social people, and so not being able to hang out with friends or not being able to interact with the youth at church, it's been a challenge for them for sure.
We talk about things we have you on a couple times a year, certainly when it gets to bell ringing time, but we have you on other times too. We talk about all the things you do in terms of handing out food from the food bank. Your daycare down there is a huge part of what you do. I imagine business is about 180 degrees from where it was.
It is, and it's very interesting as to the two components, like as we talk about it, whether we're our key three things that we do in the community is we have youth programming, we have our food pantry, and we have our adult daycare, of course. Right now our teen program has been completely on hold because we haven't been able to do anything.
Sure.
And then when we talk about the idea of our food pantry, normally folks come in the building and they select the items that their family would like. Well, in order to effectively manage social distancing, we haven't been able to do that. So we've been passing out prepackaged food boxes. We've been very lucky that our partner that works with us a lot, Meyer, has continued to supply us with a lot of the non-perishable items that we need that we've been able to include in the baskets. But I'll tell you, Paul, that we have passed out more food in the last 3 months than we normally do in an entire half a year.
Really?
We've distributed over 20,000 meals.
Do you think, if you could pinpoint a reason, maybe you can, but has it been job affected for some of these folks?
I do believe a lot of them it's been job affected. There's been a lot who are seniors who are now homebound, who can't get out. We know that at the beginning of the coronavirus, really right there when the stores were having those great runs and stuff like that, the amount of food insecurity was very high. And so, we actually hit, I want to say it was the Wednesday before Good Friday, so the Wednesday before Easter, we actually hit a record high for passing out in our organization in one day. We passed out enough food for over 1,600 meals in one day.
So food insecurity, you're saying they felt more comfortable getting food from you than taking an opportunity to go to the store?
Well, it can be that, and there can be folks who are worried about where is my next meal going to come from. And if you don't have a lot of food as it is, that just kind of compounds things. So it was a very busy time for us. We were all the staff and I that were still there and a couple of volunteers. We're all wearing our masks. I had my N95 and gloves and all that fun stuff. But it was definitely a busy season.
And probably if you were like most other businesses, you were doing this, or probably a few less people doing it because you had to make probably some staff changes. So the work increases, but maybe less people to do that.
Absolutely. I would say we were less than a third of our regular staff because of, just what happened. Now, the other one that you mentioned there was our adult daycare program. And I'm sad to say right now that our adult daycare is still closed. I think it's probably one of the few businesses in the state of Ohio.
That's from the governor.
It's from the governor. It has nothing to do with us. If it was my choice, we would have opened 2 months ago.
So child daycare opened up.
Child
right?
daycare opened
to some degree.
It did, but adults no. And the challenge that a lot of our adults have, and what the focus of our program really is we want to make sure that folks have the opportunity for socialization. It's for respite, and it's for those folks that are working. So, if you have a parent that's at home and you're employed, it's just like regular childcare. You have nowhere for your parent to go.
And that's a real issue for people.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah.
We go and we look at the idea of socialization among that population. And that's a tremendous issue too. I'm reminded of the story that we had a gentleman, this is a couple of years ago, who started coming to our program, and prior to coming to the program, he had gotten to the point that he basically just stayed in bed all day would respond to his family by grunts, had stopped using silverware and things like that. So they got him into our program, and within a month, everything had changed. The key to it was socialization. And so I actually said to our daycare director the other day, I said, I wonder if any of our clients are at that point. And she goes, Captain, I think a lot of them are. What we've been trying to do, though, through all of this is that we've been calling our clients at least 2 to 3 times a week just to check on them and make sure that they're okay, whether it's whatever the need may be. We have had some clients who have said to us, hey, I'm out of toilet paper in our house. Well, we got a big shipment of toilet paper in for the office just before everything shut down. So I'm like, all right, we can send some of that stuff out. We've been able to just kind of be in contact with them to see how is their health doing, how are they doing mental-wise. And I'm sure that there are some folks that we may be one of the only phone calls that they're getting. And, we sit down and we look at, well, what could possibly happen with our program? Would folks come back? And the majority of our clients have said, if you were open tomorrow, I'd be there tomorrow.
Sure. And these folks that are in your adult daycare, these folks would, I think, prime people to catch the virus.
Yes.
So many of them would have possible comorbidity issues, things that are going on in their own life beyond this. Do you know of anyone who's been in your group of people that you contact there who've come down with it, or family members?
We have not heard of any of our clients contracting it, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
So it's not life as usual. It hasn't been. We don't know what. It's another overused term. I understand that, the new normal. We don't know what the new normal will be if we ever get to the new normal. It's what we're going through now. So food items are still going out on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
Is that weekly?
They're going out Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay. This week we actually are going to be shifting back to our full-time pantry here very soon. We actually have just found out that we're going to be getting in a large shipment of food boxes every week for the next 6 weeks. So there will be some information coming out about food box distributions full of non-perishable food. So if you need it, come on down and see us. We actually just restarted our Produce Day distribution on the 2nd, 4th, and 5th Wednesdays of the month. We pass out produce from Mid-Ohio Food Bank, and so we've got that going again. So we're getting there slowly on that side of the operation, but we're still just kind of sitting and waiting and hoping we can get back to our senior care very soon.
When you talk to some of the other food banks in town, I know there's the Lutheran Food Bank out on East Main, there's Maywood Mission, there's churches that have them. Was everybody kind of in the same boat as you in terms of usage was way up?
I'm honestly not sure. In recent days, there's a lot of community meetings and committee meetings that we usually have that because of COVID we haven't been able to have. It's been a lot more kind of crisis or disaster kind of response.
Putting out fires immediately.
Exactly. So we've been, unfortunately, we've been doing a lot of stuff on our own just because that's been what the situation has kind of dictated to us.
Is there any word from the governor about, because they're always thinking, well, we'll look at that next week and maybe we'll make a decision. Any word on any opportunities for the adult daycare?
The last thing that we saw was Dr. Acton's most recent order that was published, and it specifically said in the order that expires on July 1st that adult and senior centers won't be able to open, are still closed. So, we've been asking, we've been researching, we have been talking with a few other organizations that do adult day services, kind of like the Center for Disabilities, and they're kind of in the same boat we are, and so our response has kind of reached, a lot of our clients are like, well, we want to come back and we want to have you back, and our response is call the governor's office.
Sure.
That's about all we can do.
Yeah. Well, Captain Bryan DeMichael, along with his wife Laura, run the Salvation Army here. Some of the trials and tribulations, and as I indicated when the show started, we've probably done 8 segments now, 4 shows, about 8 segments since we've come back, because we were not coming in for a while. And overarching subject on every one has been budgets, has been closing of programs, when will they start? And most are started back up. Must be one of the last things going is daycares, adult daycares.
It's things for seniors are still the things that are just not back yet.
Because you hear these horror stories about nursing homes. Those are, whether it's here in New York, it can be bad. So we're fortunate here that everything has worked out well. And we'll close with the One good thing we hear, the word is that you and your wife another year here. Is that
we
for
are here
certain?
another? That is for certain. That has
Good.
come out. So as of June 25th, we'll be celebrating 6 years. So on to 7. So we'll still be here. You'll have to see my face around town still.
And your daughter will be going into the 9th grade?
She will. Yes.
Let's keep her here through high school.
I
then.
like that idea a lot.
I'm sure she does too.
Oh, she does very much. Very much.
Captain Bryan DeMichael with the Salvation Army. We're fortunate to have him in today with a good story to tell on the daycares and all the trials and tribulations that an organization that does so many different things in the community, the problems that they have to do it, and how they work through it. So it's a good story to get through all this. We hope we're on the tail end of this, and we don't want to see a second wave. We don't need that, right?
We're right with you. Right with you.
Okay, Captain Bryan DeMichael with the Salvation Army. We want to thank him and you for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.